In modern high-end coastal construction, the standard practice for controlling indoor air quality starts at the top. Builders seal the building envelope, typically applying spray foam insulation directly to the attic roof deck to block out humid exterior air. Next comes the mechanical load. HVAC systems are precisely sized using manual J load calculations, and a dedicated whole-home dehumidifier is installed to manage whatever moisture remains inside that sealed environment. But this diagram shows a scenario we see consistently in South Florida. Even with a sealed attic and properly sized equipment, the relative humidity in the living space remains stubbornly trapped. It refuses to drop below 60%. Standard mechanical solutions, while technically correct on paper, often fail to control the environment in these high water table settings. The humidity persists despite every conventional safeguard. To locate the actual source of the moisture, you have to look down, past the interior finishes, to the concrete slab foundation. Maintaining low humidity in these homes requires looking beyond air mechanicals. Even a high-capacity HVAC system struggles when the structural foundation itself introduces moisture into the space. Dedicated dehumidification equipment can actually accelerate moisture intrusion in this specific environment. By aggressively drying the indoor air, your dehumidifier functions like a massive suction pump, drawing groundwater up through the foundation and directly into the air your family breathes. In coastal cities from Boca Raton to Port St. Lucie, proximity to the ocean and canal systems keeps the local water table just a few feet below the surface of the soil. The concrete poured directly over that soil is not a solid, impermeable block. It is a highly porous matrix filled with intricate microcapillary networks. This generated video illustrates the mechanics of capillary suction. Those tiny pores physically draw liquid groundwater upward, pulling it against gravity. Normally, a 6 mil polyethylene sub-slab vapor barrier prevents this. But if that membrane is missing, or if it has degraded over time, this upward migration continues unchecked. Without an intact sub-slab barrier, the concrete foundation acts as a rigid, permanent sponge, linking the indoor living space to an infinite underground reservoir. Once that moisture reaches the top of the slab, it transitions into a metric known as the Moisture Vapor Emission Rate, or MVER. Foundation moisture rarely pools on your floor as standing water. Instead, it travels invisibly as a gas, emitting continuously from the concrete into your home. When you install a powerful dehumidifier inside a sealed home, you strip moisture from the air, artificially creating an environment with extremely low vapor pressure. This animated diagram outlines the physics of the vapor pressure gradient. Nature relentlessly seeks equilibrium between high and low pressure zones. Because the indoor air is so dry, it begins to exert a severe kinetic force on the trapped vapor. This creates a cyclical feedback loop. As your equipment works to pull moisture out of the air, it simultaneously pulls more vapor up from the soil underneath to replace it. Increasing mechanical drying power under these conditions actively accelerates the MVER. It is an unwinnable, self-defeating physics loop. We recorded this exact loop in a luxury waterfront residence in Boca Raton. The home featured a sealed attic and 2 brand-new, perfectly sized HVAC systems, yet the indoor relative humidity hovered continuously between 64 and 68%. Instead of adding more dehumidification equipment, we bypassed standard air diagnostics and physically tested the internal concrete matrix itself. This technical cutaway shows the ASTM F2170 testing standard we used. We inserted relative humidity probes directly into the slab beneath the floating floors. Inside the concrete, humidity was sitting at 89%. This hard data confirms the adjacent canal's high water table as the primary moisture driver. Local geography dictates the internal environment regardless of HVAC performance. When relative humidity consistently stays above 60%, the biological cycle of mold is triggered. Dormant spores land on organic substrates like drywall or baseboards and activate in as little as 24 to 48 hours. The most common homeowner response to this sudden mold growth is to apply commercial bleach directly to those porous materials. This microscopic diagram explains why that is a critical mistake. Commercial bleach is roughly 90% water paired with large chlorine molecules. The large, jagged chlorine molecules are too big to penetrate the material. They remain trapped on the surface, stripping away the color and making the mold look like it's gone. But the smaller water molecules slip right through the pores. They saturate the material and actively feed the underlying mold root structures, the hyphae, embedded below the surface. Beyond the visible mold, high humidity fosters the release of mycotoxins. These are toxic, sticky chemical compounds produced by the mold that adhere to HVAC ductwork in textiles long after any visible growth has been removed. Using improper chemicals on porous surfaces fails to kill the mold. It actively waters the root system, guaranteeing future growth, and exacerbates the invisible airborne mycotoxin threat. Resolving foundation humidity requires a multi-layered strategy that addresses both the structural envelope and the biological fallout. The first step is to sever the capillary connection and stop the moisture vapor emission rate at the source. This 3D animated diagram demonstrates the structural solution. By applying a heavy-duty vapor mitigation epoxy directly onto the concrete slab, you eliminate vapor diffusion. With the envelope sealed, the second step is implementing a specialized Mycotoxin Remediation Strategy, or S.M.R.S protocol, to clear out the remaining indoor contamination. This involves pre-fogging with hypochloric acid and deploying chlorine dioxide gas treatments to neutralize embedded airborne mycotoxins safely, without introducing more water into the environment. Sanitizing an interior space effectively requires first severing the building envelope's connection to the infinite underground water source. The third step establishes a continuous active defense system utilizing the home's HVAC ductwork. We thoroughly clean and encapsulate the entire duct system with high-performance fungostatic sealants. This locks down any existing biological particulate and prevents future growth. Then, we install an ActivePure photohydrolysis unit directly inside the ductwork to purify the air continuously. This animated diagram outlines how photohydrolysis works. It converts ambient indoor water vapor into a safe, low-level hydrogen peroxide plasma. This plasma circulates 24/7, actively seeking out and dissolving pathogens on surfaces and in the air. True indoor air quality mastery is achieved only by respecting building physics. The most advanced mechanical equipment in the world is ultimately only as effective as the structural envelope containing it.